Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. This is Paul Hutchings coming to you with episode 91 of The Good Parts, a daily social media show where I go live Monday through Friday, right around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to share one good part from my life and or business in an effort to just add value to your life. I really want to help people build more financial freedom. I want to help people, myself included, find more happiness and joy in life. And I've learned some ideas on my journey that have helped me in those areas quite a bit. And I'm continually searching for new ideas that can keep helping me and helping others. And so, kind of the theme of this show is to share those good parts, those things that have helped me get to where I am today, and also that are helping me get to where I am today, to where I want to be in the future. So, if you're tuning in, I want to say thank you. Thanks to all my return viewers. I love you guys. I appreciate all of the engagement that you constantly give me, and I appreciate the kind words that you give me, and I appreciate the advice and the wisdom that you give me in the comments. And so if you are here live, which I see we have some live viewers, if you do me a favor and say hello, hey, what's going on, Don? Don Thompson, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Veronique over in Belgium, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So today's message is, to me, it's profound. And it's very applicable to leadership. I call this the biblical leadership formula. And the reason I called it that is because I am in a process of seeking wisdom, which I like to think that I seek all the time. I read lots of books. I've read many parts of the Bible before, and I kind of got challenged a while back to look through the Bible and see if I could find like relevant personal development lessons. One of my friends, if you didn't hear this before, I know I've talked about this before, but I had a couple of friends who said all personal development comes from the Bible. And so me being a questioner, I'm like, is that true? I'd like to read the Bible from a personal development angle. So anyway, I was reading yesterday, and I ran into this biblical leadership formula that, as I mentioned, kind of set me back. And as I wrote in the description, I think we're all leaders in life. Number one, we're leading ourselves. Are we doing a great job leading ourselves? If we can lead ourselves in a great way, then what tends to happen is we start to be able to lead others. And what gives us that right? Well, we're doing a decent job with ourselves. That's the first thing. Lead yourself first. Lead yourself well. If we're parents, we're leading our children. And so whether you're in business or not, I think the topic of leadership is a good one. And I also think the world, in some ways, is kind of starved for good leadership. If you watch the news, which I don't recommend generally, but I tune in every once in a while on social media to kind of see what's going on. There are a few people that I follow that I kind of trust, to give me good information. And as things are reported, the happenings in the world and the happenings with some of the people that seem to be in power, it does seem to me that there is a crisis in leadership. Because leadership to me doesn't just mean influence. I know John Maxwell said leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And maybe he's right on that. But my brand of leadership that I want to develop is I don't want just influence. I want good influence. Hitler was a leader. He had a lot of influence, and he caused just a massive, unimaginable amount of pain and suffering in the world. That's not good leadership. And I think we need to be like all aware that good leadership is not just about influence. It's about good influence. So whether you're in business or not, I think this is a topic that's relevant for us all. And I think what I'm going to share today, even though it was written 4,000 years ago, it's just as relevant today as it was when it was written. So I'm going to jump right into it. I want to say hi to Nick Romani. Good to see you. Okay, so here's the story. And before I share the story, I do want to say I'm not coming at this from any sort of a religious, dogmatic standpoint. I'm coming at this from a standpoint of, is there wisdom in this old book that is relevant today? So just in case there's anyone out there that's like, oh no, Paul's talking about the Bible, he's trying to convert us all to some religion. No, that's not my agenda. It never is my agenda at all. Okay. So get that out of the way. So here's the story. Tina, good to see you. So I'm reading, right? And I'm reading through Exodus, which is the story of Moses and the Israelites, the children of Israel, as they're called. And Moses is called to lead these people to freedom, which really resonates with me. I love freedom. I wear the shirt, freedom. I love building freedom in my life. I like inspiring other people to build freedom in their lives. And so the story goes, he leads the children of Israel out of Egypt, and they go into the wilderness, and there's some happenings that happen. And there comes a point in the story where Moses is sitting, it says he's sitting in judgment from morning to night. Now, what does that mean? I think what it means is he was perceived as the leader, and he's got all these people, and people are doing what people do sometimes, which is what? Fight and argue and have contentions and have like, well, he stole my thing, kind of like little kids, my brother did this, he stole this from me, that's mine. They have these little arguments, and then what happens? The parents have to sit in judgment, basically as a third party intermediary, to try to bring peace to this situation. So I think that's what Moses was doing from morning to night. And then his father-in-law Jethro comes along, and he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm, doing this work from morning to night. And Jethro says, Don says his father was a wise man. Boy, it sure seems that way. As I'm reading this advice, Jethro comes along, and he's like, this isn't going to work. And Moses is like, what are you talking about? And he's like, man, you're going to burn out. You can't do this all by yourself. You've got to get some help. And so right there, I noticed a lesson that I've read about in a lot of books that I've read, which is this idea of delegation, that you can't do it all by yourself. We all need help. If we're at the beginning stages of a business journey, it may not be delegating that we're doing, but what it is we're reaching out to mentors and people around us who have gone before, and we're getting advice, and we're using their tools and their resources, and we're trusting them. You're not doing it by yourself. And as you grow in your business career, one of the things I found out, even though I'd read about this idea in books, is that I really can't do it all by myself. I was trying to do everything by myself. I was doing so many things all by myself. And there came a point where I didn't know if I could do it anymore, because I was feeling burnt out. And it's not that I didn't have help. I did have help, but I had to realize that in order for my life mission to move forward, I needed help. I needed some delegation. I needed other people to take off some of these responsibilities that I was engaged in. And so to my friends who say that all personal development lessons come from the Bible, score one for you on the delegation principle. That is in the Bible 4,000 years ago. Jethro says you need to delegate. But what he also says, or the discussion that's had between Moses and Jethro, is that before the delegation happens, you want to teach people the law. So in other words, teach people principles, teach people the best ideas, teach people what are the right ways and the best ways to do things and to go about things, so that they can generally govern themselves if they can, because that eliminates a lot of the judging, the leadership stuff. And I thought that was a great idea. Teach people correct principles, teach people the things that they can use to make good lives and do good things without having to have people break up the fights that they're having. My belief is that if more of us adhered to principles, like the golden rule, loving people, striving for peace and harmony, there's a bunch of principles that if more of us adhered to those, if more of us were more generous and maybe less greedy, then I don't know that there would be as much of a need for all of the judges that have to come in and break up fights. So that's kind of the idea of just spreading good information so that people are equipped to govern themselves. And then we get to the delegation part. Now, here's the biblical leadership formula that I thought was so on point, even though it was written 4,000 years ago. Don Thompson says 100%. Thank you for that, Don. And Tina says agree 100%. All right, well, that's my goal, to get everyone to agree with me. Just kidding. You can disagree with me. If I say something you don't like, feel free to push back. I care about what's right much more than I care about being right. And I'm happy to change my mind if I'm off on something. So here's the part where it starts to get really interesting for me, is that Jethro, not only does he tell Moses to delegate, but he gives Moses the criteria by which to look for the right people to put in those positions of responsibility. 3 things he says. Now, I may not say this in the exact language that it was written in the Bible, but I'm going to get the point across. So the first one was fear God. And I want to talk about that for just a moment, because sometimes when you use the word God, some people, and this all depends on whatever experience you've had in your past up to today that's attached to that word God. If you had negative experiences where people tried to manipulate you and that was all tied in with the word God, you're probably not going to like the word God. If you had experiences where you were lied to and that was tied in with the word God, you're probably not going to like the word God. If you had great experiences and all of that was tied to the word God, you might like the word God. But I want to break this down the way that I see it. The word God, for me, I don't claim to know much of anything about that topic, about, can I prove that there is God? I have some ideas I could share. I have some experiences, but no, I can't prove it. Can I give you any sort of definitive stuff about that topic? I really can't. I'm a human just like all of us, doing my best to find my way. I am a seeker, so I've read a lot. I've thought about a lot. I've prayed a lot. I've paid attention to the experiences that I've had in my life that are around this topic. And I like saying that, to me, God, whether we say God is an entity, or whether we say God represents the highest good, or even whether we say God represents an idea. I was listening to a podcast recently where an individual said, look, even the idea of God is good, even if there is no God. And I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat. I'm like, huh? What's he going to say? And he said, if you're stranded on a desert, on a tropical, or on a desert island, and there's a limited amount of food and there's no one coming to help, would you rather be there with people who believe in a higher power, a higher good, that our actions today might actually produce long-term consequences for us in the future, and that we should give consideration to not just the immediate results, but maybe the long-term results? And what he said was, even just the idea of God tends to help people want to make better choices. And I thought that was really great, So fear God, to me, in part, means having someone in a leadership position that is open to the idea that there is a higher good, that it's not just this little teeny perspective that we're looking at, like with our own lives and our own little decisions, that maybe we can look at the bigger picture, and maybe maybe there's just something more to see. I think wise people, they have a larger perspective. I read a definition of philosophy from Will Durant, and he said philosophy means to have a large perspective. And so I think people that have a large perspective realize that they don't know everything, and that idea of good and or God and or some sort of accountability for our daily actions tends to produce in people the desire to do good things. Now, a lot of people can argue with that, whatever, but that's just how I see it. So fear God. Now, fear, I'm not a fan of fear. I much prefer faith. And I was studying a while back what was the Hebrew origin of the word fear. And part of what I learned was that it wasn't just fear as we understand it today, but it was more like a sense of wonder, awe, respect, reverence, I guess you could say. That's kind of what fear is in that term. And so a sense of wonder, awe, reverence, respect for what? For God, the highest good. The universe, some people call it the universe. The sense that there's some sort of power that many of us don't really understand, but sometimes we feel like we can touch it and we can feel it. And so many people argue back and forth about it. But to have a person in a position of responsibility that is kind of in that space, like not running around telling people what to do and manipulating people. And this is another thing you have to be careful of, I think, with and this comes to times when you are looking for people to help you with responsibilities. The word God, people realize that that's a word that can be used to gain influence over other people. And so you really have to be careful, because sometimes people will use that word and they don't really mean what they're saying. In other words, sometimes people use that word just so they can give the impression that, oh, I'm a good person. I believe in God. You should listen to me, and that happens a lot. So you have to be really careful about that. But yeah, to have someone in a position of responsibility that is in a space where what's right matters more than being right, where wisdom matters more than selfish decisions, and to realize that, just to have this faith that this all has meaning, it all has purpose. There's all some sort of divine order to it. I think people in that space generally make far better decisions than someone who's not in that space. So that's one thing to be aware of. And you could even say, if you don't like the phrase fear God, you could say find people who have strong moral character. Strong moral character where they have a solid, healthy set of values that they have thought through, that they believe in enough to be backing those beliefs up with their words, and that they're not going to be flip-flopping all the time. Weak moral character is flip-flopping. It's like someone says, oh yeah, I believe this, this is the thing. And then they're like going back and forth on it all the time, or their actions are not matching up with what they said they believed. I guess that would be another category. That would be another way to describe someone who doesn't fear God, So I thought that was a good thing for me to strive for, to be in that category, and then also to strive to have awareness. And again, this comes in many different sizes, shapes, colors, flavors. So, it's not like we can look at someone and say, do you believe in God? Tell me your religion. No, I don't think it's that. I think sometimes people, they have faith and they might not even be able to describe all of where their faith comes from, but they show up in life with a positive mental attitude, with a desire to serve, with initiative and leadership, and this desire to do good things. So they might not even ever say, I fear God, but they're showing up in life in a way where their actions are kind of indicating that they're in harmony with this thing we call life. So anyway, that's the first point. And I'm going to, did you guys lose me? Someone said you lost me. Can you guys still hear me? I'm going to come back to all the comments, but I want to make sure you can still hear me. If you guys would comment below and let me know if you can still hear me. Don said you guys lost me for a moment. So can you hear me? Okay. Tina says you can hear me. Okay, great. So anyway, so that's the first thing. Thank you, Tina. The second thing that I think is so good, and it was something to the effect of walk in truth or love truth. Someone who loves truth and walks in truth and lives by truth. Truth can be difficult to define, but I've tried to define it. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give you my definitions of truth, my two definitions. The first category is what you call scientific truth, where if someone says, hey, let's go jump off this building and we can fly, you're like, no, I don't think that's going to work. That's not scientific. The results of that experiment would be death based on scientific truth, based on the law of gravity. So you've got scientific truth, but there's another category of truth that I think that is important. And that second category of truth is what we would call moral truth or spiritual truth or metaphorical truth. Sometimes I like to call it. And that is um, things that we can't necessarily measure in a laboratory, but nonetheless are very important for good, good results among people and good results in the world. And there are some examples of, like, moral truths. Love, for example, would be an example of a moral truth. If you truly love people, you can't really measure that with a microscope. Faith would be another example. If you truly have faith, you can't put that in a lab. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't smell it. But I've noticed in my life that faith produces far better effects in my life, in my business, in my family than not having faith. So I can't measure it in a laboratory. I can't go to a scientific body and say, "Hey, can you guys give me the breakdown of the chemical composition of faith?" They're going to laugh at you. So there's a whole group of ideas that I think fall into this example of moral truth. And this is why, this is one reason that I think there's some confusion in the world, because sometimes people think that scientific truth is the only thing that matters. There's a famous philosophical line that says, you can't derive an ought from an is. Scientific truth can tell us what is. Moral truths can tell us how we ought to act and behave in the world, and they're not the same. And so to be a person yourself, number one, who is seeking moral truth, is it easy? No, it's not. It's not easy. Is there confusion sometimes? Yeah, there's confusion sometimes. But if you seek moral truth, I think with an honest and sincere heart, you will find glimpses of moral truth, and you'll touch them and you'll feel them, and you can read about them in books, and you can test them out in your life. And when you test them out in your life, you can see the effects that they have, and the effects that they have are good. And so this second category of someone who walks in truth is find people that are have that intention. Can we ever be perfect at the truth? I don't know. I don't know that we can. So inside that category of moral truth, you would want to throw the character attribute of humility. You don't want people who think they know it all and who are never open to any feedback or ideas for learning. But to be that type of a person yourself, and then to also look for others who are like that, other seekers, other people who are serious about finding the best ideas and applying them in their lives. I think those are really great people to help you share in whatever responsibilities that you have. So we've got fear God, we've got walk in truth, and then here's the third one. And this is one that, I mean, to me, all three of these seem to be very relevant for the world in which we live today. But this third one says, find people who hate covetousness. And I had to look up the word covetousness because I wasn't sure what it meant. But basically, covetousness means someone who is always seeking after the property of others, the things of others. Like, what I have isn't good enough. I got to look at what Tina has and what Kevin has and what Gregory has. I got to get their stuff. And if you think about this from a leadership perspective, obviously that would be a bad quality to have for a leader, because they're always using power to try to get and take from other people. And in that frame of mind, it's really hard to make decisions that are the best decisions, because the best decisions, I think, they're not made from a place of pure selfishness. I can look at something that might be good for my life today, but might hurt other people if I were to engage in those activities. And so if I look at what someone has and I'm like, I got to get that at all costs, I could go into their house and I could steal it. yeah, maybe that'd be good for me today. I could get the stuff, but long term, from a bigger perspective, that's a bad decision. So someone with that character attribute, I don't think is fit for leadership. And unfortunately, sometimes when I watch some of these news reports and see what's going on, I'm like, oh man, seems like a lot of these people that are leading things are kind of filled with this covetousness thing. I don't know. I mean, that's just my perspective. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. But if you can realize, and this is, I think, a good philosophy to have, if you can realize that you don't need anyone else's stuff. There's plenty of stuff. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of prosperity to be had for all of us. And if you can realize that and look inward and decide that you're going to be a person that earns your stuff, you don't need to take it from anyone else if you're willing to earn it. And if you're willing to earn it, there's plenty out there for you. And we can all work together in harmony, moving forward, doing great things, doing things that are mutually beneficial to everyone involved. And so those are the things that I wanted to share, the biblical leadership formula. And to just recap, we've got delegate, when the time is right, delegate, allow people to help, give people opportunities to grow in their leadership, to grow in their communication, to help you with what you're doing. Really important. And then the three things to look for in leadership in yourself and also leadership in others when it comes time to finding people to help you share responsibilities is fear God, which I would probably replace that with just find people of faith. Find people that believe in the higher good. Find people that believe in a better future. Find people that love people. Find people that want to just do good things for the sake of doing good things. I think those are the types of people that fall in that category. So fear God, walk in truth, find truth seekers, and then the last one, what was the last one? Oh yeah, no covetousness. So, if you think about the opposite of covetousness, like how would we put this in a character attribute that we could look for in people? The opposite of covetousness would be generosity. Look for people that are giving, that want to give good things to as many people as they can. That's the opposite. Giving says there's enough. I want you to have good things. I want to give. And you don't just have to give money, you can, but you can give good ideas. You can give your heart. You can give your experience. You can give your love. You can give your listening ear. There's so many things you can give that are not necessarily monetarily related. And if you can find people like that are not covetous, but instead generous, and surround yourself with those people, not only I think can you do much greater things in the world together, but also the journey will be much more joyous. I love being around people who are just always looking to help and share and lead and give and offer their knowledge and offer their insight. It's just a joy to be around people like that. So that's my message for today. Hopefully it has blessed your life. And if you're finding me for the first time, I do these lives. I don't talk about the Bible every day. I talk about wisdom, really. I look for wisdom in all aspects of my life and business, and I do my best to share those ideas. So you can subscribe to me on social media to follow me more on wherever you're finding this, or you can visit my website and subscribe to my email list, which is paulhutchings.net/GIFTS. Pick up a free gift and be sure to stay in touch with me via my email newsletter. So I'm going to jump to the comments and thank everyone for all the great comments here so far. And I'm going to jump to some of the first ones. Nick, he's always saying nice things about me. Thank you, Nick. You spot it. You got it. You're a smart and wise man. Thank you for the compliment. Kevin Coe says, to me, the idea of feeling the power above is better than thinking I'm going to sink. Ooh, I like that, right? I like that. And it's like, why do we have to run around arguing about what is the power above? I've got a friend in the gym. His name's Dean. And he used to tell me that there was a time in his life where he was struggling with a certain addiction, and he got into Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the things from Alcoholics Anonymous is that they encourage people to accept that there is a power greater than them. And one of the things that they used to say, or at least that I heard Dean say, was, there's a power greater than you, because do you see the sun up today? And you're like, yeah. Did you cause that sun to come up today? No. Well, then there is obviously a power greater than you. Do you have to define it? Do you have to describe its gender? Do you have to tell everyone what it looks like, and on and on and on, all the ways in which people, try, like, it's like, I don't know that we need to do that. I think it's a good thing. Like Kevin said, feel the power above, believe that God, that the universe, infinite intelligence has good intentions for us, that there's a reason we're here. And that when we work in harmony with the best ideas and principles, good things are all but guaranteed, I think. So yeah, great comment, Kevin. Thank you for that. Veronique says, we use the word universe. Everyone is free to give it the name, what it means for them. We appreciate and respect everyone's beliefs. Well, I appreciate that. And I like that. So thank you for that. I heard someone say recently on a video, opinions ain't special because everyone has one, and so I think it's good to just remember that, some things are really opinions, and other things might be more deep. Don Thompson says, fear God means respect. Yeah, exactly. I think that's right. Respect. Yep. Respect. Thank you for that. Don says, we look like, oh yeah, I already read that one earlier. Nick says, that's sad. It isn't that people prey on the weak and use God as bait. In my opinion, I think that's despicable. I think it's despicable too. And, one of the things I've learned from some of my studies in psychology is that the experts say that there are about 3% of the population that is actually narcissistic and psychopathic. So what does that mean? It's just a type of person that really doesn't care about hurting others and will do things to hurt others in order to get for themselves. And so just being aware that there's that number of people out in the world, they're going to use every tool they have at their disposal to gain influence over us. So yeah, we have to be aware. Kevin says, or a true believer swearing after the fact. Yep. Tina, Don says, my screen went black. Okay, sorry about that, Don. I'll have to watch replay and see if that was on my end or yours. And what other comments we have here? Greg Napier, he's a Bible scholar. He says, good morning. Good to see you, Greg. Don says, leaders don't just lead, but teach others to lead, just as you are doing now. Thank you so much for that great compliment. Working on it, a lot of room for improvement, but working on it for sure. Gregory says, I came in late, so I'm here to listen. Awesome. Well, listen to the replay if you want. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic, Greg. Janice, hey, long time no see. How are you? She says, hello, Paul. She drops some notes. Excellent message. Definitely biblically founded. Great message. Thank you for blessing my day. Woohoo! I blessed your day. Success. One person, Thank you. I appreciate that. Kevin Coe says, all going in the same positive direction, leadership to share, higher good. I love that. Thank you for that. Jenna says, freely you have received, freely give. Yes, yes, yes. Tina says, it is already ours. We reap what we sow, whether good or bad. So asking, then doing the work, we shall receive all we ask for, and so much more than we could ever imagine. Even better when we are in a service. We are a service-driven leader. I would say to that, Tina, my experience has been 100% correct. What you just said, so much more than you ever could have imagined, so much bigger than you ever could have dreamed up. Even like Napoleon Hill talks about in his books that, religious faithful people would say, God is so good, and from a Napoleon Hill perspective, he would say nature in and of itself produces in abundance. When you plant a seed, the seed doesn't usually just grow one thing. I mean, sometimes it does. Well, no, actually, because even if it grows the one thing, the flower or the tree drops other seeds, and then it produces more and more and more and more. So yeah, when you get in harmony, with the laws, I think we can expect more, like you said. Hey, Delroy, thanks for tuning in. Tina Hamilton says, this message is so good and so powerful. Yay. Thank you so much, Tina. Thanks for saying hello, Delroy. Dan Krenzis says, love sharing wisdom and receiving wisdom. I love it too. I'm so glad you like it. And, we can create content like this, to help people and then also grow our businesses at the same time. How cool is that? Hey, thanks for posting the link there, Delroy. Greg says, you're always giving great tips. Yay. Thanks, Greg. Trying to. Gail says only 3%. LOL. Yeah, like, yeah, that's what they say. I think there's another probably category that where maybe people are doing things that look they're exhibiting behavior that might look like people in those categories, but I think there's a whole big chunk of other people who just don't know any better yet, so they're like on this path of evolving consciousness. So yeah, that's what I would say, but thanks for the laugh, that was funny. Tina says, I have a friend who meditates every day. I spend quiet time with God every day. We both are meditating and have the same end goal. No matter what word we use, God, universe, etc., we all want the same thing. Life is so beautiful and no need to fight about a word, as the true secret is the feeling. So beautifully put. Nick says, God helps those who help themselves. I believe that's true. And Booker says, God is good, but you still have to get to work. Yeah. And that's another random thing I read in the stories that I mentioned is, the children of Israel were complaining about, getting out of slavery and winning their freedom. And they were complaining because they were hungry. Like, you should have left us in there to die. You should have left us over there. Better to die there with the Egyptians than out here in the wilderness. And there was a point in the story where Moses says, well, there's plenty of bread. There's plenty of bread. But then there was a little line there that said something about you have to go gather it. Like, you have to go out and do something. There's plenty out there, but you have to do something. So anyway, that mirrors your comment there, Booker. So, all right, guys, that's it. Long life today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you get out there, take action, go for your dreams, and do good to people, love people, serve people, give, be generous, develop your leadership, and give yourself patience, because, John Maxwell says leadership develops daily, but not in a day, because it's like all of these compounding days of just doing our best tends to turn into better and better and better leadership. So, all right, everyone. Well, I'll be back tomorrow, so tune in if you want, and bye for now.